The mission of the company is largely still intact, which is that we believe that we're this very valuable communications mechanism and utility that will essentially allow you to connect with the people and the information that's important to you. And I think that was what we felt very early on. It's what we feel today. I think what we have better knowledge and awareness now is of the broader ecosystem at large. And to put it in very simple terms, what we know now, or what we believe today, and what we can articulate better today, is that we believe there's this social layer that's being built all throughout the internet. And it will transcend just consumer internet websites, but it will include every single website possible. And the value that that will have is essentially the ability for people within the context of whatever site or whatever service you're using to basically have a more efficient and useful experience because of the colleagues that you can use it with, or because of the friends that you use it with, or because of the information you can both publish and consume from the people in that cohort that's relevant to you. And that dynamic needs plumbing, and we believe we're going to build that plumbing. And I'm sure there are other companies who want to do the same. We think that's great as well, but we sort of want to compete vigorously and win to do that, which is to basically have and provide the most relevant, ubiquitous social layer on top of the entire web. Up until probably 2 or 3 months ago, we had a very loosely defined product management organization of maybe 5 or 6 people. And even today, we probably have only 1 or 2 QA people. And the reason is because, and this is a site, it's, I think, one of the most complex sort of consumer websites, tens of thousands of servers, millions and millions of lines of code. We're handling millions and millions of concurrent people, tens of millions of actives, hundreds of millions of registered users. And so how is that possible? Well, it's possible because we defer the onus of the traditional software development cycle away from the people that have traditionally done it. So for example, the quality assurance process is not one where code is written by an engineer and then handed off to some other person who sits across the hall and then they test. The engineer who builds it has to test. And the reward for that is that you push every day. So we have pushers that push code every night, every single day of the week, even today. And that discipline is instilled because we believe that what wins the day and what will win the race is innovation. But in order to do it correctly, in order to put the product in the hands of the people that really understand it the best, we want to abstract away sort of layers that get in the way. And it's not that QA isn't important, it's critical. But who better to basically test something that's written except the person that wrote it themselves? And so it forces this tremendous discipline in our organization where the traditional sort of structured organization of software development doesn't necessarily exist. And so we have 150, 170 plus engineers. They write, they test, and then basically that night they can push. And that cycle is incredibly validating and rewarding for our engineering staff because they see the impacts that they're making on a massive user base every single day. And so the quality of the code is quite good. And so when you think of the combination of the size of the site and the amount of technical complexity we have, the sort of bugs that actually get seen by the consumer are slim, very, very slim, and they're really minor. Now, that said, site's probably going down right now, but, so I'm knocking on wood as I say that. But so that's different, right? And with respect to sort of how we build products, there's a lot of intuition, which is where do we think the market should evolve to? Because at the end of the day, we're inventing stuff that doesn't exist, and the hard thing is how do you explain something? It's like you can do these sort of qualitative or quantitative studies where you'll ask someone about a block of metal that has a screen that you can touch that does all these amazing things, and people will say, what are you talking about 3 years ago? And then you show them an iPhone and all of a sudden people buy the iPhone. So what do? Do you not build the iPhone? Well, no, you innovate the market and you hope you can create something that can attract the market to you in some degree, but also you can sell it to people because it's got demonstrable value. So there what we do is we basically have a lot of intuition married with a lot of data. I think the valuable thing that we have now is 70 plus, almost 80 million active users every month banging on the service, doing tons of things, generating tens of billions of page views a month. That's tremendous amounts of information that we try to parse intelligently to try to inform what we do. And to that degree, there's immense amounts of infrastructure that we built over the last year to basically get every single small modicum of data available. And a lot of people at the company, at a minimum, understand SQL so that they can go in and they can grab information. I mean, literally, people who have had no software development experience whatsoever, who are literally arts grads, we give them an SQL book, they come back over the Christmas holidays and they're pulling data and they're making more informed decisions. So that's sort of how we're different. And thus far it's been working pretty well. What we have is basically a loose federation. So what that means is essentially that we have a management tier, which is basically our CTO and 3 engineering directors, and then we have large groups who are loosely organized against initiatives. But engineers come and go between initiatives, and so there's this permeability so that as certain efforts expand in scope, people get drafted in. As other initiatives ramp down, people get the ability to transition to other things. And we keep it that way and that dynamic because it allows us to do exactly what you just talked about, which is, we iterate, we test, we find something that's really working, we think it's groundbreaking, then all of a sudden we can ramp people onto it very quickly. And because they've had exposure to platform or they've had exposure to some of the site infrastructure, they ramp up really easily and they can affect a really amazing thing in a really short period of time.